Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Los Angeles. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Luis Scott Vargas, and it looks like we went disco mode.
Yeah, an incandescent Brad Nelson.
He is not playing red like he was in the Pro Tour.
He's in the red zone.
He's definitely in the red zone here. But he is playing a deck that can get fairly aggressive in Mardu. It's a little more of a mid-range shell than he was playing a pretty aggressive deck at the Pro Tour last week. Now he just played against Valentin Machel in the last round. They're actually on the same deck, right?
As far as I can tell, same 75. I
Yeah.
mean, I looked at the list and yeah, maybe they have one land different, but I actually think it's just the exact same 75.
Okay, so, but now he's facing a much different opponent here in Isaac Sears, who's sitting at 11-1. Isaac is on the national team for the United States at the World Magic Cup. He will be joining our national champion Owen Turtenwald there, along with two others.
Yeah, we also have Neil Oliver and Andrew Beckstrom as the other two members of the team. And we have a lot more other national team members at this GP than most, because it's right after our Pro Tour, so we have a lot of national team champions and members of the teams from other countries here as well.
Right. Also, 16 of the top 25 ranked pros are here. It's a very competitive GP, a good turnout as well for 1,700 players.
So,
and a nice recovery plan there for Brad Nelson, who had his Seeker of the Way killed. But both of these players are trying to be the aggressor here early. Seeker of the Way into Goblin Rabblemaster facing down a Fleecemane line. Everybody's trying to get their beat down on. The question is, who will come out on top of that race?
Yeah, and Brad's gotten the slight advantage in that his 2-drop, took up Isaac's turn 3, and Isaac took a point off Caves of Koilos. Next turn, Isaac could cast another Hero's Downfall. It looks like he's going to cast an Anafenza, take another point, but now he's in the spot where if he attacks with Fleecemane and Brad removes Anafenza, the second Goblin plus the Rabblemaster come over. So Isaac's kind of forced to stay back and still hopes Brad doesn't have removal.
I mean, Isaac has put up a nice defense here, a 4-4 and a 3-3. But those can disappear pretty quickly in this format. There's plenty of efficient removal running around in multiple colors, including Brad's.
Yeah, and if Brad has, I mean, this is the kind of turn where Brad wants to go Chain to the Rocks plus 2 or 3 drop. If Brad doesn't have those and he marches 2 goblins into Isaac's 2 creatures, Isaac's pretty happy about that.
Looks like Brad's in deep thought here.
I mean, this is one of the critical turns of the game. I mean, this standard is so, like there's so many good proactive threats here that it feels like what happens on turns like 3, 4, and 5 tends to kind of set the tenor of the game much more than it has in other formats. I mean,
yes.
When Supreme Verdict was a card, for example, and was fairly ubiquitous, you'd see a lot of, this dies, this dies, this dies, and there'd be nothing on the board on turn 6. That's not as true in this format.
No, it feels very swingy to me, watching the matches today especially. It feels like people are throwing haymakers back and forth at each other. Here's Murderous Cut.
And it's somewhat unpleasant to have to pay 4 mana to use Murderous Cut, because again, the card has so much more potential. But Brad doesn't want to lose a second Goblin token. He has to decide which creature to kill now.
Now, obviously, Anafenza is the bigger one that he'd like to get out of the way in the immediate future, but he has to think down the line of Fleecemane line if he's not going to be able to get his opponent dead. Now, he's going to go ahead and send in there with the Rabblemaster and offer the trade as well. But that trade will not be reciprocated, so it's going to be 5 damage hitting Isaac Sears here.
And another reason not to kill Anafenza, though I agree with Brad's play to kill her, is if Isaac has 2, in his hand, they are legendary, so
yes.
Brad could hope to strand one.
Isaac Sears playing it safe here. He's not fussing around. He's going to kill Goblin Rabblemaster right now with the Hero's Downfall. And leave him with just a token.
And that's kind of a consequence of not knowing Brad's exact list. He doesn't want to get destroyed by something like God's Willing, but he could actually just wait until Brad tries to leave his main phase before doing that, which gives Brad less information. Maybe Brad goes and pluses Sorin instead of doing something else. That being said, I don't disagree with what Isaac did there. I'm just explaining why he did it.
Sure.
For Marshall, not the viewers.
Yeah. Because they already think I'm so smart. Just throwing you softballs all day. All right, this is Hordling Outburst for Brad Nelson. So he's reloaded his board in a pretty reasonable way, but kind of needs something to get these goblins punching through for a little more, as he's not going to really win as the board sits, especially if Isaac has almost anything.
Isaac has a Thoughtseize, revealing a hand full of Brad's least powerful cards here.
Yeah.
I mean, these are Brad's 2 and 3 drops. Brad really wants to draw his like 4 and 5 drops.
Right. All right, Hordling Outburst hits the bin here, leaving him with Seeker of the Way and Land. But it does put Isaac. Wow, yeah, he's up against it here. I mean, he took 2 from the Thoughtseize, and now he's got a Herald of Torment as well.
Casting Thoughtseize, then tapping Caves of Coilos to tap cast Herald of Torment is not the situation you really want to be in.
No, he's down to 6 here.
Yeah, and Brad drew Chain to the Rocks, which is kind of perfect.
He's going to leave him with the Herald of Torment, which is going to eat one of the goblins, but what a great draw for Brad Nelson. Don't forget your trigger there, Isaac.
That's not one of the ones you really can forget.
You can try to forget it, but Brad Nelson is having none of it. There's Siege Rhino for Isaac, who apparently is dead.
Siege Rhino is his best card here. It puts him up to 5. It gives him a little breathing room in terms of the Herald, and it makes it so Brad's attacks are less good. So if Isaac can draw like another Siege Rhino, he might be in good shape here.
Yeah, the first one was certainly critical. What does he have here?
Isaac needs to start remembering those.
Yes.
That's actually on him to remember.
Yeah, it's absolutely on him, and he's got to be careful because he can pick up warnings for those if Brad were to call a judge. And
if Brad were to ask a judge about it, I believe Isaac would get a warning there because it's a detrimental trigger, and you're supposed to remember your own detrimental triggers.
Yeah, and frankly, I think Brad should. Like, I think you're supposed to do that. I think that it helps protect the integrity of the game in the long term. I don't think Isaac's up to anything here, but
no, especially like on camera, people it's just more forgetfulness than anything else. It looks like he remembered here.
Yeah.
But my policy is the first time I kind of let it slide and remind them. Second time I call a judge. I just
gotcha.
You get one. Of course, now that I've said that, I'm going to hold people to
yeah, right. I was going to say there goes that policy.
Isaac's hand, of course, Thoughtseize and Ulcerate, more cards that damage himself. So he's not really looking to be in a good spot here. Brad could technically go for the win. He could attack with everything, put Isaac to 1, and hope Isaac doesn't have a way to deal with Herald of Torment. Though in that case, Isaac would just kill the Seeker, block 2 goblins, go to 2. I like this attack though.
Okay. He immediately throws both in front.
Putting the Herald in front of the Seeker, hoping Brad casts something.
Yep. And there's Ulcerate. Okay, so it was a joke Ulcerate. I was going to say, like, I don't think that's quite good enough here. Like, finding a way to kill your own Herald of Torment is obviously a miserable situation to be in, but it would be the play. He just didn't have the right removal spell there. Yeah, he was just behind the whole entire way. But really, it did come down to Brad top decking that Chain of the Rocks.
Yeah, I mean that Chain of the Rocks let Brad push through for an additional point of damage. Brad is in fuego here. He's just he's on such a win streak that he's on fire.
He's like just literally burning up there. I found out what it actually is. It's not a disco, and Brad is not on fire. It's a clock. There's a clock up.
Oh, that's the round clock.
Yeah, it's
okay.
They put one in on the side of it.
No, I like it. I think it's good.
It definitely gives a different dramatic feel to the feature match area when from this camera angle. But. All right, so we don't have any. Everybody shuffling.
Yeah,
we don't have a match to jump over to at the moment just because we caught them all. This happens rarely, but occasionally. We usually like to jump over to a secondary match to catch actual action, but
well, it's like when the radio starts playing an ad, and you switch radio stations, and every radio station's playing an ad.
Yes.
Back in the days that when people use radio stations.
Yeah, you might want to explain what a radio station is for most of our audience. Yeah.
Or to Marshall, not the audience.
God. That's the one that I would know.
I think I found a new thing, and I kind of like it.
Just bury me, huh?
So Brad is got the option of actually boarding in, Anger of the Gods and End Hostilities, and I was saying I didn't really like that plan, against Abzan in general, but Anger of the Gods is actually cheap enough, and Brad has enough cards that don't care about it, that I like that a lot more than, say, End Hostilities.
So does he just put those in straight up for, like, the Hordling Outbursts and stuff, or, like, how does that actually work? Is he changing what his deck does fundamentally?
He isn't changing it fundamentally, because, I mean, his cards are all just, like, Brad's deck isn't like a true synergy deck in that it's not like, I need to assemble this 3-card combo to win.
Right.
It's that these cards work well together, but they're okay on their own.
I see. Okay, I see, right. So he could actually have a deck with Hordling Outburst in it and also have Anger of the Gods in it? Because, like, I'm seeing Hordling Outburst, Seeker of the Way, Goblin, Ravelmaster all get eaten up by an Anger of the Gods.
Yeah, but the thing is, Brad also doesn't need to go, 2-drop, every game. So Brad can just slow play his cards. Like, Seeker might come out when Anger comes in, but let's say Ravelmaster stays in, which seems fine.
Yeah.
You just go turn 3 Anger, turn 4 Ravelmaster.
Sure.
And you know, Isaac's not in the spot where he can afford to just not play cards. Of course, Anafenza makes anger a lot worse too. So, I mean, part of the reason that this Abzan deck is so good is that it is resilient to a lot of the kind of cards that are traditionally good against aggro decks. So, I wouldn't expect Brad to fundamentally shift how his deck works, but he can take a few of his low-end cards out for more high-end cards, maybe more sweepers, and try to make it into a slightly more controlling role. Like
shuffle vision here, unfortunately.
Looks like Isaac's still deciding how to sideboard, and he, you know, he's got another deck that can't dramatically change how his deck plays out either. I mean, he can again adjust it for the matchup, and that's kind of what most sideboarding is doing. But some decks have the option of completely changing how they play. Like the Jeskai deck that a lot of the CFB guys are playing this weekend, it kind of sides into a control deck against the more aggressive decks.
Right.
And I like that plan. I think that's generally good.
And right now, Isaac's got to kind of try to classify what he thinks Brad Nelson is up to, as well as his deck. It's kind of interesting. It isn't super straightforward exactly what it's doing. It looks, you know, kind of like this mid-range deck that has like a bunch of tokens floating around, some planeswalkers, some removal. It's kind of not super specific. It's not like Isaac can sit down and be like, well, here's an aggro deck, I'll sideboard this way, or here's a control deck. It's kind of somewhere in the middle.
And that's true of a lot of decks in this format. They kind of bleed into, you know, they're somewhere on the spectrum between aggro, mid-range, and control. And like, you know, post-board, this mid-range deck might be a control deck, or it might be an aggro deck, depending on how it works. You usually go up, not down, because going down requires more fundamental changes, whereas going up the ladder, you take out your 4 Seekers, put in 2 Angers, 2 End Hostilities, all of a sudden you look like a Mardu control deck.
Right. Okay, so Isaac should be on the play here, and he certainly wants that. His deck is quite aggressive and has some really nice tempo plays too, where he can capitalize on being the one to go first.
Yeah, Brad is more likely to be able to cast 2 spells in the same turn, which is pretty important here. But Isaac can still, you know, he got a lot more 2s than Brad does. So Isaac on the play could, and if Brad doesn't have a 2-drop, if let's say Brad sided up Seekers and doesn't draw a Lightning Strike, if Isaac goes Fleecemane into Anafenza into, you know, Heir of the Wilds and another 2-drop, then Brad could be in a lot of trouble. Looks like Isaac boarded Drown in Sorrow though, so he's cognizant of the tokens theme.
He saw the Hordling Outburst, he saw the Seeker of the Way.
There's a chance that Brad sided out Seekers and maybe even some of the other 3-drop token makers, in which case that Drown gets a lot worse. Like if Brad's on Anger, End Hostilities, and Elspeths, for example, then we could end up in a spot where it's a lot better.
So the Drown would only hit Goblin Rabblemaster in that point, and it probably just 1-for-1 for it anyway. All right, it looks like we have another match. So Valentin Machel won his first game versus Eric Froehlich. But that's not going to stop Ifro from battling here with...
and he's really hoping Valentin didn't have...
Lightning Strike.
Lightning Strike.
Yeah, and he didn't, so...
Or he might have it and is saving it, do you think?
I'm going to say no on that one, Louise. And this is where, like... Banishing Light, okay. I was going to say, this is where, like, a Goblin Rabblemaster doesn't look so amazing. But Banishing Light looks pretty nice. No play here from Eric Froehlich. What would you suspect if you're in Valentin's seat?
Well, Eric has 2 Dig Through Times in his hand, and that would have the read of Eric having at least one of those. Possibly spot removal to kill something. Though Hordling Outburst fights well against that. That is, you know, that's the synergy of Hordling Outburst, is that it fights against spot removal.
Yeah. Also can't be Disdainful Stroke. So.
Or Nullified.
Yeah. Very nice. That's pretty awkward.
Eric,
all right, let's jump back to our main match here. We'll keep an eye on this one for you guys and keep you updated. But here we are, so I think Isaac mulliganed to 6 and then off he went, so.
Well, I think Brad actually mulliganed.
Oh, excuse me, Brad, correct. But he's on the draw, so hopefully it won't hurt him too badly. Isaac has pretty much the ideal 2-drop here with Fleecemane Lion.
Yeah, works with Drown. I mean, look at, he's following it up with the Anafenza. Brad isn't able to cast Chain to the Rocks right now, he doesn't have a mountain.
Oh, wow. Yeah, just curving Fleecemane Lion into Anafenza is going to put Brad Nelson under the gun in a big way. He drops to 17, and then Isaac can have a full 7 power on the battlefield here before Brad even gets to his 3rd land.
I may have been looking to crack that Windswept Heath to get a land so you don't take a pain off Caves of Koilos there. just because you take a pan off Windswept Heath, but you're going to have to do that at some point no matter what.
Sure. There's Bloodstained Mire for Brad Nelson, so he does find a pseudo mountain here.
Yeah, so
Now,
Brad,
interestingly, though, you got to wonder if he wants black mana as well, right?
yeah, that's the other key. It also depends on what Brad wants to play this turn. If he doesn't have a Chain to the Rocks, then there's no drawback to getting a swamp, assuming he's got access to black mana otherwise.
Okay, yeah, well, he did find a swamp with it, so no Chain to the Rocks for Brad, but he's obviously got other plans lined up. Let's see what he's got. Crackling Doom. All right, that's a nice one.
And it's not bad, but paying 3 mana to kill their 3-drop when they had a 2-drop that's hitting you, that's not really where you want to be either.
You're not really getting back ahead or giving things evened out, huh?
Yeah, you're kind of behind. If you trade your 3 mana for their 3, turn after turn, you're not going to end up winning that game.
Rakshasa Death Dealer hits the battlefield, so not the ideal turn 4 play there for Isaac Sears. He would have loved to just windmill the Siege Rhino, but maybe he's got something else that he can cast in his hand on Brad's turn.
He's deciding whether he wants to cast another Fleeceman, and this is where playing around sideboard cards comes in.
Bile-Blight or?
Brad, well, not Bile-Blight as much as Anger of the Gods. He really doesn't want to get hit by Anger here. And, in game 1 he would have slammed it, in games 2 and 3 he doesn't, and that's an advantage for Brad. I mean, if Brad doesn't have Anger and Isaac's playing around it, that's good for Brad. Of course, Brad doesn't have Anger, so that ends up working out. If Brad had Anger, obviously he would wish that Isaac would play into it, but it's the sort of thing where Isaac feels like he's pretty far ahead, and he doesn't want to he would just lose the game if Anger of the Gods resolved right there. Whereas, with his current board, he not only gets to save the Rakshasa, he also doesn't have an extra line in play that's getting eaten.
Right.
So it's a 1-for-1 instead of a 3-for-1. So I agree with his risk assessment there, and I think that Hordeling Outburst is not really punishing him. Like, he could even drown it away if he has a land to make his Rakshasa bigger, but I like just attacking and playing another creature. I mean,
yeah, he can attack with both. Even if he has that extra land, he can attack with both pretty freely here, representing either Monstrosity on Fleecemane Lion or a pump on his Rakshasa Death Dealer, leaving Brad Nelson with no great blocks either way.
Yeah, and Brad could triple block the tokens with the tokens, so maybe there's a possibility you don't attack with the Lion here.
Yeah, now that he doesn't have the 5th untapped
right,
mana,
if he had a 5th untapped mana, that'd be a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah,
you
it
could
just
also
feels like being patient.
Yeah, you could also stop playing around Anger if you wanted to. You could just, if Brad doesn't block, hit him for 4, then play a Fleecemane. But
is that still pretty risky though? I mean, Brad did play Hordeling Outburst, like signifying probably doesn't have Anger of the Gods unless he's trying to.
Well, Hordeling Outburst buys time to cast a Wrath, which is kind of nice.
It does. Gotta wonder how much Isaac's thinking about having his board swept away in one way or another.
Yeah, I suspect...
Now, he could actually, but Anger of the Gods, he can still play around at least a little bit here, right? Like if he were to play the Fleecemane line, because he can pump his Rakshasa Death Dealer in response and not have it die.
Right, he could have done that, but he wanted to deal 4, so he chose to deal 4 and then not play the Lion, leaving Rakshasa immune to Anger or end hostility, actually.
Okay. And there's a second Hordeling Outburst, so this is getting a little bit out of control here.
The Drown and Sorrow getting a little juicier. Because he could make the Rakshasa 4/4, then drown it. He only gets to attack Brad for 3, but it does wipe Brad's board. That might be worth doing.
Yeah, that's tempting just based on visuals. Like, just seeing all those creatures there, you just want to get rid of them.
That's not generally how you make plays.
I know, I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, how do you turn down taking all those permanents off the battlefield?
That doesn't sound too bad. The more Hordeling Outburst Brad plays, the less likely he has Anger in his deck. It's not 0, basically ever, but you can discount it a little bit. Also, it's possible that Isaac wants to just try to grind through the tokens. I don't mind just going for the Drown here, pumping the Rakshasa. Then if Brad has Anger or end hostilities, you lose both your creatures, but your hand is still Fleecemane Lion, Hero's Downfall. That's not that bad, and that's worst case scenario. And in the best case scenario, you're really far ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like Isaac is going for it. I mean, he could get Lightning Struck here, but I don't think that's a big issue either. Like, Lightning Strike's going to kill one of your creatures no matter what. You could also wait a turn and Monstrous Fleecemane. That's another very valid option, is just attack, assume Brad's going to chump with 1 token. Brad could block with 2. I kind of like that, because if Brad blocks with 2, that forces you to tap mana to Rakshasa and makes it so you can't Monstrous Fleecemane.
Right. But I don't think that Isaac's interested in Monster Scene Fleecemane anyway, just because Brad's representing Lightning Strike by leaving the mana up. He just doesn't want to sink every mana he has into that.
Well, if let's say Brad blocked with 1 token,
yeah,
Isaac would have 5 mana untapped. If Brad then passed the turn back, Isaac would go to Monstrous Fleeceman and force Brad to do something. But Brad is preventing that, so that also indicates Brad is less likely to have Lightning Strike.
Right. Also, the fact that Brad hasn't killed anything on his side for multiple turns here. So
Brad drew a Wingmate Rock, so Brad's got a good play this turn too.
Isaac's at 16. Can Brad turn this thing around and start turning himself into the beatdown here? He's going to throw away a Goblin here, most likely, to enable the Wingmate Rock, and Isaac Sears, I'm sure, sees the writing on the wall as far as that goes.
Yeah, and Isaac's likely going to Hero's Downfall one of the rocks end of turn, for the original one, just because he needs to use his mana, and he's got, you know, a pretty heavy, you know, demand on it with the Rakshasa there.
All right, so kill the Wingmate Rock that allows some type of life gain.
Has to take a point to do so.
I think he just drew another Fleecemane Lion. Now the way is clear for him to Monstrous if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, he could attack with both first. If Brad blocks the line with the rock, he can just Monstrous it. If Brad, you know, just chumps, then you could just hit him for 4. That actually doesn't seem too bad.
This is where Death Dealer really starts to shine, right? I mean, Brad has to leave that thing back to chump block the Death Dealer, because he can make it, what, a 2, 4, 6, an 8/8?
Yeah, I mean, Death Dealer becomes, you know, pretty monstrous in the late game, much like the Lion.
Yeah.
Brad now has an opportunity to kill the Death Dealer, which I'm sure he'll take if he can. It is nice that Chain of the Rocks always kills it.
But now this game has shifted, right? Now all of a sudden this Fleecemane Lion is going to be able to attack every single turn for the rest of the game with basically impunity into Brad Nelson.
Yeah.
And Brad has no way to really interact with it. So, like, does Crackling Doom get it here?
Crackling Doom would deal with it.
Okay, so he does have a way to deal with it.
That's one of the advantages of playing this deck, is you get to deal with cards that are generally safe.
Prognostic Sphinx of Monstrous Fleecemane Lion, you can actually kill them.
Sylvan Caryatid out of the combo deck.
Yeah? Yeah, you had some experience with that. So this is going to get interesting. A lot of it's going to depend on what Brad draws here, what kind of answers he can find. He's got 3 cards in his hand.
Yeah, Brad's definitely the one who needs more help, and he's the one who doesn't have a ton of time to do it. And just because if he doesn't have an answer to the Lion, then it's going to keep going, you know, chowing through those tokens.
Right. So he plays Sarkhan to take down the Rakshasa Death Dealer while the door is open to do so. Only attacks with the token. So why not attack with the rock there?
He's playing around Isaac having 1 piece of removal. I guess he wants to chump the Lion with the 3/4 to keep Sarkhan alive, or to keep himself alive. I mean, he's very close to death. I suspect I would have attacked the rock just to. I mean, you have to try to kill Isaac. You don't long term have an answer to the Lion, but Isaac doesn't have a removal spell either way. So, but Isaac does have a Whip of Erebos.
Oh, really? He's got Anafenza in his graveyard.
I like drowning here. It kills the tokens. It makes the rock into a 1/2 and your line's a 2/2. So now given the line's only a 2/2, I actually kind of like attacking the Sarkhan. So you're at least forcing one of Brad's two permanents to die.
Right. It's not like Isaac doesn't have a lot of reach in his deck, but he does have potential draws for Siege Rhino, which would be lethal there.
Yeah, but I think he'd rather just get far enough ahead on board here.
Yeah.
Especially since next turn he's threatening lethal still regardless.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose both lines would be lethal, but then Brad would have the rock in play. I mean, either way, Brad has the option of chumping with the rock. You might as well force him to lose one of his permanents, I think.
Right. All right, so Sarkhan gets in the red zone. Now, I have to say, Isaac's at 8 here. Like, one Hordling Outburst or something, and all of a sudden Sarkhan's in range to finish this game off. So this is a lot closer than it might look, and there's a Hordling Outburst.
Yeah, it's true, but I think Isaac, given that his life total is threatened enough, now he just plays Whip, and if he attacks and gains 7, then I mean, that puts him pretty far out of reach.
I was speaking more from Brad's perspective. Like, we know he's got the Whip, and that's going to change things dramatically.
Well, Upzone Charm's also pretty good, because even if he didn't want to play the Whip, he could charm away the Sarkhan if it attacks. But I like just playing the Whip. I mean,
just gaining 7 here.
If Brad has Crackling Doom, it ends up being pretty bad for you, but so that's the downside. But I think if Brad had Crackling Doom, he would have played differently earlier. Brad, if you attack with both, Brad does get to triple block on the smaller line, but I actually think that's fine too.
Yeah.
I think you just want to gain the 7. And I think Brad's incentive is to potentially just triple block and get rid of the lion. But I guess he's not. I mean, he's just going to protect his life total. Either way, he's not really going to be able to outrace this whip. This is the kind of board where whip is really, really good, even without the ability to bring things back, which it still has.
So Sarkhan survives, but and Brad Nelson survives as well. But unfortunately for Brad, Isaac Sears now back up to 15 life. Still has a monstrous Fleecemane line, plus its small companion. And yeah, that's going to do it for that game. Brad Nelson, he tried, but Isaac Sears evens things up, so we're going to get a game 3 here.
And Brad got to see that Drown in Sorrow got cast, so that'll maybe change some of his plays too.
If you've been watching Magic for a while now, you're used to this. Brad has stepped away for a moment. And it looks like our secondary match is also over between Eric Froehlich and Valentin
that's not good
Mackel.
news for Eric
Yeah,
Froehlich.
I would assume that Mackel has won that match. Since he was up a game when we last checked in, it would have had to been 2 very quick games from Eric Froehlich, which is possible, but seems unlikely. Also, Mackel's smiling, so.
That makes it also less likely.
Yes, we have a lot of evidence to work with here. If you look behind, you can see on the right-hand side, that's the Turbo MTG match that we've been showing you guys at the end of the round, where we play it at a faster speed. That one's being recorded right now. And then the match to their left is our third feature match table. Often that's where the text writers will write up features.
And
It's like we've
Raonic trying to lock up top 8 here.
He's king of the hill currently.
He is.
That is our king of the hill table as well, the one on the right there. So with the win, he's in?
With the win, he's in. With the draw, he's likely in. But, I mean, this Isaac Sears-Brad match, if they finish at 12-1, they're going to be in pretty good shape. I mean, they're then in the same position where a draw is a pretty good shot and a win is a lock.
Does it skew things to have somebody still undefeated at this point?
Well, so
for the other players?
from the perspective of people trying to make top 8, once you have a guy who's like 13-0, you actually just want him to keep winning because he's already locked. One of the spots in the top 8's already gone. So every win he does, he gets, takes another win out of the system, which benefits everyone but the person he beat.
Ah, I see.
So you would much rather, like, everyone, you know, once it becomes clear that he's going to make top 8, everyone wants him to win because he knocks other potential people out of top 8.
Right.
He gets to play the role of the dream crusher, as it were.
Valentin Mackel was the victor against Eric Froehlich. Where does that put Efro? Do we know what their
X3
records
now.
were? So effectively out.
Yeah, which is unfortunate for him. Luckily, he gets to drive home. This is a quasi-local GP. He's got a couple-hour drive back to Las Vegas.
Yes. Do you think he's already on the interstate right now, or is he going to stay and hang out?
No, I mean, he playing for a top 16 finish is still worth it. There's only 2 rounds left.
By the way, he's had a great start to the season. Jeez.
I mean, he started 1-4 of the Pro Tour, finished 11-5 to finish with 10 Pro Tour points because now it's points based. If you have 33 points, 11 wins, you get 10 points. If you have 36 points, you get 15 points. So I actually like that a lot more. I think that's a great change.
So the previous was based on your
previous was
ranking.
top 16 was 15 points and top 25 was 10 points, which means that some people at each point total made it and some didn't. And losing 5 pro points on tiebreakers is pretty brutal.
That's huge.
And I think,
I mean, you get 8 for winning a GP. Like losing 5 on breakers is very tough.
Right. So he finished with the points from what would previously be a top 25 record. He also top 4 to Grand Prix thanks to his wonderful teammates.
Yes, his incredibly good-looking, stunning, handsome teammates.
Yeah, I don't remember who they were off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, I'll remind you, I was covering that GP. So,
yeah, but they did play great, to be fair.
You know what they told me? They told me that Efro played great.
I played great. Well, what actually happened was we gave Efro the best deck and Paul the worst deck. So I think we all played pretty well, but I mean, all the decks aren't going to be equal, and the way we split them up, Efro had the nut mono white deck multiple times.
Ah, gotcha. But for Valentin Mackel, that's a great win and puts him in shouting distance of a top 8 here.
Yeah, he's, probably got a 2-0. I mean, there's a chance he can win. Looks like Isaac's here with a shout out to his sister.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good move. Unless he's talking about the sleep-in special, because I do love the sleep-in special. Coverage doesn't get a sleep-in special, unfortunately.
No, we don't. I tried to pay for that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't take it. Randy got one today.
Yeah, he did. Meanwhile, Brad just shout out to the Goblin Token.
Also, Randy, he told me in the booth, he said he woke up and watched us cover the first round because he's Randy.
Yeah, I mean, when Randy started the Super Vintage League, which I'm currently leading.
Which is also not what it's called.
A Vintage Super League, right?
Yeah.
I figured he just did it because it was a good anagram, but
yeah.
I told him, I need to play my match early because I don't want to. I think it might run too late. I can't stay up that late, and then I just watch every match.
Yeah.
So, it has turned out that I'm like, I just play my match wherever. I'll just watch all of them anyway.
Funny. I actually watched the replay. That it usually gets rerun immediately after, and I'm usually not home when it's live, and so I'll watch it just a couple of hours time shifted. That is super fun, by the way. If you guys are want to check out Vintage, Randy set up the Vintage Super League. Luis is in it. A lot of Magic luminaries are in it. Tom Martell's there, Josh Utter-Layton. The list goes on.
Bob Maher, Dave Williams, Chris Pikula, Steve Minetti, and Rich Shea.
Yeah, fantastic lineup. Super fun. And that goes Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific on this very channel, twitch.tv/Magic.
Oh yeah, definitely check it out. I've had a ton of fun with it. It's like some of the most fun I've had playing Magic in a long time. And it's it's a great way to watch Vintage if you haven't really ever experienced it. And if you like Vintage, you should definitely be watching.
Yeah, you guys got me.
Also, we're live for an 8-way tie because it's cut to top 4 after 9 weeks, and we're live to have 8 people tied for the 3/4 slot.
Oh, do I sense playoff matches?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. All right, looks like we are finally ready to stop sideboarding and get underway in Game 3 here. We're deep into the Swiss portion here in Los Angeles. It's round 13, and both of these players have managed to only pick up 1 loss so far, so very much live for a top 8 bid here. Brad Nelson, really the master of Standard. If you look at his finishes over his last Standard GPs, he is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, Brad's done pretty well for himself in Standard.
Done pretty well for himself. That is an understatement. He like, in 4 GPs in a row, he like top 16 and top 8'd 3 of them, like in Standard GPs.
Yeah, he picks a spot. I mean, he skips a lot of the non-Standard GPs to concentrate. Not necessarily concentrate on Standard. It's not like he's at home playing Standard the whole time instead of going to the GP.
Right.
But he's definitely done well with the GPs that maybe he just goes to GPs where he's confident in his deck. That certainly helps.
It is true, though, those were spread out over the course of like a year and a half. But when he does show up to a GP with a Standard deck, he is incredible.
Looks like this start, they're just both trading cards. Lion trading for Lightning Strike. And, this is very typical of Standard these days. Again, we've talked a lot about how 1-mana 2/1s are just not in evidence. And look, it's turn 4, and there's nothing on the board. Brad's going to play something here, but these are 2 somewhat aggressive decks.
Yes.
And this is just not how Standard's just not. There's not 4 guys on the board by turn 3. That's just, unless there's a Hordeling Outburst.
And very telling of that as well is the fact that Brad Nelson tried to run that deck at the Pro Tour and is not this week. He was running Monastery Swift Spears and stuff at the Pro Tour, and he's like, all right, that's not working. So now we see a couple of nice ones here. Butcher of the Horde versus Anafenza. And there's Sarkhan. Hey, this isn't, block Khans of Tarkir, even though we see like all Khans cards for Standard. There is Theros looming, and there's, all right, a second Anafenza. You mentioned this in the last game, Luis. Sometimes you actually end up freeing a slot in their hand by killing their legendary creature. That happened here, not that Brad had another line, but...
Yeah, and Isaac's so far behind. I mean, I can't help but think that playing Abzan Charm would have been a little more conservative here, because he's going to get hit for 9 this turn no matter what happens.
Yeah, he's taking 9.
So playing the Anafenza is pretty aggressive, especially since Brad's so far ahead, and if Brad just plays anything this turn, then Brad's in a really good spot.
Yeah, especially again, I look at something like Hordling Outburst to sort of just clog up the ground while Brad hits for 9 twice in the air, and that'd do it. A lot of options.
Looks like Rabblemaster just basically letting Brad gain 5 life off the token. Or no, Banishing Light.
Oh, it's Banishing Light.
Well, this is actually going to work out all right.
And Rabblemaster, so make that 10.
Isaac actually has the Erase to get rid of Banishing Light here.
Oh, at instant speed as well.
You know, Isaac might actually make a comeback here. It's going to be tough, but he can erase the Banishing Light, block the token. Brad's going to sack it to gain lifelink. He gets to untap, attack Sarkhan, and then have Abzan Charm for Butcher the Horde. Brad, of course, still has the Rabblemaster, so he can either save Sarkhan by chumping Anafenza, or he can just, let the Rabblemaster sit there and try to attack next turn. But if Isaac draws a 5th land and has like Bioblight plus Abzan Charm, he actually could be right back in it.
Wow.
That'd be an insane comeback. So it looks like his play of Anafenza worked out way better for him. So I mean, I gotta give him credit. Maybe he saw that he was so far behind that he had to just hope things broke his way and work that way.
He's also got a Wingmate Rock in his hand too, so he can attack Sarkhan here, force a chump, or eat Sarkhan and then play Wingmate Rock.
Yeah, that's another good option. I like the Charm Bioblight line though.
Does he have Bioblight?
I think he does. If
Okay.
he does, then I like that a lot more.
Okay.
Because then you go Bioblight the Rabblemaster, kill Sarkhan, Charm the Butcher, and all of a sudden you have Anafenza versus Brad's 1 card in hand.
Wow.
Yeah,
This is so swingy.
This game
It's
is awesome.
Yeah, like every turn is just like your turn, and you just have to put on your seatbelt while your opponent just completely takes over the game on their turn. When it comes back to you, you get to do it again.
Looks like Drown in Sorrow. Well, actually, this works too. You can Drown in Sorrow, and then you can Bioblight the Butcher. So
And still kill Sarkhan, right?
yeah. And so this actually leaves with Abzan Charm. So yeah, given that he has Drown in Sorrow, this actually I think ends up being a little stronger.
And battle there. Wow, what a huge turn for Isaac Sears, who's at 5 now. What does Brad have as far as reach goes in the deck? What can he use to get Isaac from 5 to 0?
He's not playing green, so there's a very few cards with reach. Like Soul of Zendikar, for example, would have been one of the cards he's looking at. But he has Lightning Strikes.
Okay.
And he has cards like Sarkhan and Butcher, so he has a lot of hasty cards. Brad's look like he's sitting on a Wingmate Rock, which is not really where you want to be here. He has no creatures in play to enable the raid. Technically, the Butcher is supposed to be exiled because of Anafenza, same with the Rabblemaster, so maybe we'll be able to get someone to go ahead and fix that.
All right. So one thing to keep in mind here is that Brad is at 23.
Looks like they figured it out.
Yeah, there they go.
Brad is at 23. Isaac is behind, but Isaac's going to get to attack this turn and then raid a Wingmate Rock.
Wow.
And all of a sudden the tables have just turned.
Isaac has just completely taken over this game now. And Brad Nelson, while still at 19 life, he's got a bit of a cushion here. That's going to go away very quickly. He's got, what, 10 power on the other side now? Ugh. No good attack here from his own Wingmate Rock.
Yeah, and looks like Brad has just Seeker away. This is not the time for Seeker.
That is miserable. He's got one last card and he's going to cast it. What is it?
Looks like Glare of Heresy. So at least now Isaac's not gaining the life off Wingmate here, but he's got a Sorin, so he can actually play Sorin plus Sorin, attack for 5 off Anafenza and 5 off the rock because it gets a counter from Anafenza, gain 10 life, and then he loses a Sorin on the attack back, but he puts himself in a really good spot. I love the speed he's playing.
Yeah,
he's playing insanely fast.
He has seen these lines ahead of time, no doubt about that. Wow. Back up to 15 goes Isaac Sears with Brad Nelson now stone top decking, just trying to find something here.
Yeah,
now, Brad had to end hostilities in game 2. Was that right?
Yeah, he may have, but I'm not. Yeah, that would be okay here. You would kill Sorin and basically put them back to parity, but Isaac's the one with the huge life advantage.
Yeah.
I've been impressed with Isaac's play here. I mean, I thought the Anafenza play was a little too risky, but it ended up working out very well.
Oh, and Brad actually has to leave back Seeker here just because he dies otherwise. It's like Chump Seeker.
Yeah, that's a really bad spot because that means Sorin lives. Isaac's getting another now 11 life because the Anafenza token keeps piling up. Brad's in an almost untenable position.
Yeah, he is in a terrible spot. Yeah, he was so far ahead too. That erase was just nasty.
Yeah. It's funny, someone in the chat was like, why does he have a race in his hand? And then it becomes the best card in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an obvious addition, but it is.
No.
It is definitely something good. And
And
geez,
that's it.
That was it. That was one of the most exciting games I've seen on camera this
Yeah,
weekend.
that was absolutely thrilling, and unfortunately not for Brad Nelson, who can only shake his head, but he can